Okay, I'm here outside the Horn, as was the Horn of Plenty in Victoria Street on St Albans, and I'm here to meet Phil Smee, the founder of Waldos Records, and Shirley Ascher, aka Tanya Hyde from Tanya Hyde and the Tormentors. And it's very cold here in December in St Albans, so we'll go inside now. I'm here with Phil, Mr Waldos Records, and Shirley, aka Tanya Hyde and the Tormentors. Thanks ever so much for coming down and chatting. Phil, if I can start with you, what inspired you to form Waldos Records in the first place, and was there any ethos behind the label?
It was one of those decisions that I made because I love music, and being a designer, I just got into designing record sleeves. And the reason I was into record sleeves was that once the punk movement just started, a lot of record companies needed people to do the single sleeves rather than just the albums. Before that, singles didn't really have sleeves; they were just in bags, you know. And suddenly, all the new ones were in sleeves, and I thought, well, that wouldn't be lovely, you know. We've got some decent bands. Let's just start a record label. Why not? You know, I was only 27, so it was more of a hobby more than anything.
Yeah. And
we just felt our way. The first band that I signed was a band called the Bears, whose singer was in Nick Egan, who lived in St Albans, and the rest of the guys were in Watford Art School. They came from different places around, and I came from Watford Art School. So I thought, well, that sounds like a nice little band. They were a pretty untamed, raw bunch.
Fantastic.
And I when I say signed, you know, I said to them, "Do you want to make a record?" And they said, "Oh yeah, let's make a record."
Shirley, I have to ask you similarly, did you have, what were your inspirations at the time? And I also have to ask where the name Tanya Hyde and the Tormentors came from.
Well, we formed the band because Barry Clark, we used to be a thing called Words, where we used to put on gigs at the Pioneer Youth Centre and then latterly at the art school, and that got a bit big, and Barry took it over and put it on at the City Hall, which is obviously the arena now. And he had quite a prestigious gig coming up with Patti Smith. I think this might have been December, but I'm not too sure. And Patti Smith was coming over in the month after, so January I think it was, and he hadn't got a support act. And he said, I haven't got a support act. And I was like, no problem, my band will do it. He's like, what? I wasn't aware you even had a band. I was like, I will have by then. So I got together with Pete Sutton, the guitarist, and I think we got Dan Brown to stand in as bass player so that we could do some numbers. We hired the art centre in Spicer Street, called Spicer Street Art Centre, and we just auditioned there one Sunday afternoon, and that's how we got a drummer. And I think Dan just stayed in the band, but anyhow we got Dan, and that was quite great to get Dan because he's so good. And that was the band, and Tanya Hyde and the Tormentors. I thought of the name Tanya Hyde, and then we were sort of, what should it be? Tanya Hyde and the Trepidors, or Tanya Hyde and the whatever it was, and then we came up with, I think Pete said, Tormentors, and so that's how it came.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So was your first ever gig supporting Patti Smith?
Patti Smith pulled out.
Okay.
It's like, I think our fifth gig was supporting the Clash, because we got onto the Clash tour, and then the Clash tour cancelled, unfortunately. But our first gig was in fact the Tourists, which was Annie Lennox's band at the time. That was at Campus West. Yeah. And in fact I was so nervous that first gig I had to do the entire gig kneeling down because my legs were shaking so much that they couldn't stand up.
And you used to rehearse here, right where we're sitting, in fact.
Yeah, we used to, we're just behind you actually on the stage.
Brilliant. And then apart from the Horn and the St Albans Arena, where else were you playing locally or going to see gigs locally? And similarly, Phil, where were you going and where were you putting on gigs?
One of the things we were very aware of was to get people to come and see us. We decided a good way of getting the names of our bands in the newspapers was to make up gigs, and so they would be listed a lot, you know, so people just keep seeing the name. You know, after the Bears, it was the Tea Set and the Bodies. So we would put these fake gigs in as being at Waldos Jazz Club, which didn't exist. I mean, I got the name Waldos from the B-side of a Elmer Bernstein single called The Jazz at Waldos. I just like the idea, and I like the idea that the record company was being run by this big fat guy with a cigar that no one ever saw, called Waldos. This is a funny way we think. So we put these gigs in at Waldos Jazz Club, and of course people would then phone, where is it? Where we want to go? And then we gave, we admitted there wasn't such a thing. But so that was a good way of getting the names around. And then but obviously we did play proper gigs, and apart from the ones I put on, which were at the further end and the City Hall, we put things on. There are quite a lot of venues, odd little places, sort of Salvation Army Hall or something. International Club,
International Centre,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Right. Faulkner Hall, yeah.
The Pioneer's amazing, actually, isn't it? It's been there for everything.
Yeah.
The Zombies.
I saw the Zombies there.
Played the Pioneer.
Yeah.
And then key here, and right through to Enter Shikari, organising their under-18 shows. And it's always been there. It's got an amazing sort of history.
And we used to put gigs on there with Shirley and Lynn when it was called Words, before Barry Clark took it over. And we put Mott the Hoople on there.
Wow.